The music that he created on records. The records are forever, and that's something that we all have to keep in mind.
Mm-hmm. You wrote an article recently for Vanity Fair magazine. It has not been published yet. What is the basic message that you put into that article, Jonathan?
That'll be out next month in Vanity Fair, and as you say, I would have to summarize it, if asked, as I have been, by saying that whatever we know about Sinatra's personal behavior, that behavior is not on those records. Those records are high art, from Wee Small Hours to Swingin' Lovers to September of My Years to She Shot Me Down to Only the Lonely and so on. Sinatra was honest and brilliant as an interpretive musician. By that I mean Sinatra interpreted what other people wrote, and he wrote across the country like Paul Revere, spreading the word. An example of a non-interpretive singer would be Bob Dylan or Paul McCartney, who got up on stage and sang their own material. Sinatra needed Rodgers and Hart and Cole Porter and Arthur Schwartz and George Gershwin to do that. So he was, in my judgment, the greatest interpretive musician that this country ever produced.
To go along with that, Frank Sinatra said to be a really good performer, you have to sing the song like it's a story. Is that why people were drawn to him?
I think they're drawn to his music because of its honesty and because of its beauty. It's almost physically beautiful, and yet it's audible. I mean, it's sound rather than painting. It's luminous singing, if I may use that descriptive word.
Yeah, he had certainly ups and downs in his private life and his professional life, for that matter. Do you feel that those are reflected in the songs he sang?
To some degree, sure. I think that any artist, and Sinatra was a great artist, is terribly influenced by personal events, relations with women, and so on. But it doesn't come any better than in the Wee Small Hours of the Morning, which was 16 songs on an album. You've got to remember there were no albums in the 1940s. There were just singles, so 2 songs dribbled out at a time, but an album allowed the novelist in Sinatra to step forward to paint on a much larger canvas.
Yeah, excellent point, Jonathan. You've been playing his music for 21 years. Today, what's getting the most requests there in New York?
What's
is there a particular song that's taking on the most requests? One would assume it's New York, New York, but I don't know. I'm not there.
I am here, and there's no specific request except for the sound of his voice, which is received with love and affection.
Do you yourself have a favorite song, looking back at his wonderful career?
I don't have a favorite song, but I have a favorite album, and it's called In the Wee Small Hours of the Morning. It's the greatest album of music of any kind that I've ever heard, anyway.
We have not seen Frank Sinatra, and will not now, with his passing last night, for 17 months. The last time he was spotted in public was January of 1997. Do you have any indication as to why his family wanted to keep his life so private?
Because he fell ill and was walking slowly, and they wanted to keep him out of the limelight. I was at his last concert. Not many people knew that it was to be his last concert, but I did. It was in Palm Desert, California, on February 25th, 1995. And it was a charity event at which he sang 6 songs. And interestingly and ironically, the last song that he sang publicly was The Best Is Yet to Come.
Wow. Is that the most appropriate song for today?
For today, I think that the sound of his singing voice, which is the sound of the 20th century, is the appropriate sound to pay attention to.
Jonathan Schwartz, WQEW, live in New York. Certainly appreciate your time today, sir.
Thank you.
And thanks for stopping by as well.
Of course.
All right, have a good weekend. Break here. When we come back, international reaction to the death of Frank Sinatra. Back after this. That reaction from Tony Blair overseas, and as revered as Frank Sinatra is in this country, his popularity does not stop at the U.S. border. Here now with some international reaction to Sinatra's death is Jennifer Glass from London.
The news of Sinatra's death was in the London newspapers just a few hours after the announcement.
Very good singer. My idol.
Everyone I know, since like my parents, my grandparents, everyone, my boyfriend and me, we like all grow up like listening to Frank Sinatra, you know. It's really a shame.
And I'm very, very sad. He's been part of my generation.
It's quite sad, really, because he made a good contribution to music.
Oh, I love Frank Sinatra. Love him.
Also here in England for a G8 summit in Birmingham, President Clinton expressed his remorse.
I had the opportunity after I became president to get to know him a little, to have dinner with him, to appreciate on a personal level what hundreds of millions of people around the world, including me, appreciated.
The self-described skinny kid from Hoboken was revered all over the world. He performed for Queen Elizabeth of Britain.
Mere alcohol, it doesn't move me at all.
And Prince Rainier and Princess Grace of Monaco. And though he walked with royalty, he never seemed to lose the common touch, and his fans loved him for it. They are mourning in Paris.
Poor Frank. I mean, it's for us in France, Frank Sinatra is a real symbol.
Symbol of what exactly?
Of the crooner.
And Rome.
We can say he was always very popular here in Italy. Besides the fact he was Italian, he had a wonderful voice.
The news of Frank Sinatra's death is reverberating throughout Europe. Almost everywhere, it is big news.
Frank Sinatra hatte durch seine Musik die Unsterblichkeit längst erreicht.
At Greater London Radio, both the newscasts
Frank Sinatra has died of a heart attack.
And the music shows were filled with Sinatra.
That means something has gone. That means a whole epoch has gone. The last man who can wear a snap brim hat with a double band and undo a tie, kind of on a suit, and still look that cool.
He may have been very American in his style, but his appeal was universal. Jennifer Glass for CNN, London.
And that concludes this very special look back at the life and the death of Frank Sinatra. Coming up, though, the latest developments out of Beverly Hills, California, and Los Angeles on the story surrounding Frank Sinatra's death, the passing at the age of 82. CNN's Morning News continues right now.
This is CNN.
The Voice
I sing the song that I sang for them.
is now silent. The world mourns a singing legend. Also, as Indonesia burns, Suharto tries to clamp down, but will he step down as well? And why these famous pricey flowers are really a fake. It is Friday, May 15th, and this is CNN's Morning News. And live from the CNN Center in Atlanta, welcome back. I'm Bill Hemmer. Thanks for being with us. Darren Kagan has the day off today. The most influential pop singer of the 20th century has died. Frank Sinatra suffered a fatal heart attack late last night at a hospital in Los Angeles. He was 82 years of age. Sinatra had been in failing health for months. CNN's Bill Tush takes a look at the remarkable career and the life of the man known affectionately as Old Blue Eyes.
The fame began on tours with Harry James and Tommy Dorsey, but the legend began at New York's Paramount Theater in 1942.
I walk alone, they'll ask me why, and I'll tell them I'd rather.
Frank Sinatra's singing style, influenced by his idol, crooner Bing Crosby, catapulted Sinatra to the top of the music world. Teenage girls swooned at the mention of his name and to the sound of early hits like Night and Day. It wasn't too long before this cultural icon took his act to Hollywood in the 1940s with such films as Anchors Aweigh and On the Town. In the 50s, he scored in The Man with the Golden Arm, made his mark in high society, and rolled the dice with Marlon Brando in Guys and Dolls.
I cannot believe that a #1 businessman like you could let himself go and fall in love with his own fiancée.
All right, so Adelaide is my weakness. Thought that acting is play acting like we did when we were kids, but this was, but suddenly you're grown up and it's for real. And then you become immersed in what you're playing, too. You also I made myself think that I was really that guy on any film I did, comedy or whatever it might have been.
Sinatra endured a number of shakeups in the early 50s, a highly publicized divorce from wife Nancy, a whirlwind affair that led to marriage and divorce from actress Ava Gardner, and a case of severely damaged vocal cords. The net result, his agency, MCA, dropped him. But the skinny kid from Hoboken bounced back, begging Columbia Pictures for a role in From Here to Eternity. His performance earned him an Academy Award. A decade later, his role in The Manchurian Candidate earned him critical acclaim.
Well, take a look at this kid.
In the 1960s, Sinatra formed his own label, Reprise Records, and joined by his own Rat Pack, he showed that Las Vegas was also his kind of town. It's where he got hitched to actress Mia Farrow in a short-lived marriage. In 1976, he married Barbara Marx, his fourth wife. The next 20 years, Sinatra's legend grew as he continued to act, perform, and record the only way he knew how. In 1990, Sinatra celebrated his 75th birthday with a National Diamond Jubilee Tour, showing his fans he still had it.
I swear on my mother's soul, the first 4 or 5 seconds, I tremble every time I take the step and I walk out of the wing onto the stage, because I keep thinking to myself, I wonder if it'll be there. When I go for the first sounds that I have to make, will it be there?
I have said to myself, this affair never gonna go so well.
As for recording, his duets album paired Sinatra with such younger singers as U2's Bono, and was an instant hit. At the 1994 Grammy Awards in New York, Sinatra was honored for a lifetime of musical accomplishments with the prestigious Legend Award. And while there was controversy over his acceptance speech being cut off by a commercial, Sinatra simply turned the other cheek and got ready for his next series of performances. 4 days later in Richmond, Virginia, the 78-year-old singer passed out on stage after becoming overheated. After undergoing tests, Sinatra was released from a Virginia hospital hours after being admitted. The incident did, however, effectively mark the end of his days as a performer. In 1995, a concert at Carnegie Hall paid tribute to the songs of Sinatra with performances from Vic Damone and Michael Feinstein.
Inevitably, as a singer, anytime you open your mouth to sing any song, it's probably been done by Sinatra first.
There never will be another Frank Sinatra. He's all by himself with what he's done with his life as a performer, as a man, and he's had his downs and he's had his ups, but he really is. He's a great, great man.
Later that year, the music world's biggest names helped put a twinkle in those blue eyes with a star-studded 80th birthday bash. While in the Big Apple, the Empire State Building turned blue, as all of New York acknowledged that a young man from Hoboken, New Jersey, had not only made it there, but everywhere.
I don't know about legend. I mean, everybody's a legend. If everybody were really legends, but nobody, no normal people in the world. Everybody would be a legend.
Few would argue against his being a legend, but everyone would agree that Frank Sinatra did it his way.
Did you know the singer almost died at birth? The doctor handling a very difficult delivery gave up at one point. Grandma Rosa Garavanti picked up the newborn and held him under the cold tap water until he choked, yelled, and finally breathed. Fast forward now to the late 1950s, early 60s, Sinatra ran with the so-called Rat Pack, fellow stars known for their carousing and hard drinking. Their antics were immortalized in films such as Ocean's 11.
Day after tomorrow, gentlemen, we'll be in Las Vegas.
Sinatra financed several projects starring members of his Rat Pack, including Ocean's 11. The films were not popular with critics, nor were they box office hits, but they stand as a record of the days when Frank, Dino, Sammy, and their pals drank, smoked, and womanized, made their own rules, and lived by them.